This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. You know, I've been waiting for a long time to be able to make a video on this channel. And the reason it's been such a long time since I've uploaded on this channel, for those of you who care about this, if you don't, you can skip past this where I actually talk about what happened in the game. But basically, I have upped my upload schedule on the main channel, which made sense and continues to make sense. And that meant that the work doubled on the main channel. Also, the Q and Kobe podcast is something that I enjoy doing. It's also, you know, I think having some code success too. So there's been a lot of ways, you know, I get more opportunities with Bleacher Report, Cleveland.com, and the more opportunities I get, the more stretched thin I am. And a couple years ago, when I wasn't getting these opportunities, you know, doing a Cavs channel made a lot of sense because I had the extra time to. Now, I just don't have enough time to be able to do this in the way that I want to do this. And like, I think of this way with anything, right? You know, between content creators, there's a debate about the word content, right? To me, this isn't just content. This is work. Like, this is my work. And I don't want to just put things out to put things out. I want them to have some kind of value to me and some kind of value to the audience. And if I'm not able to put the work in with the Cavs throughout the year to be able to say things or have conversations that I feel like are compelling, then it's not something that I want to attach my name to, right? Just to do it. And also, I think there are people in this space, in this Cavs space, that quite frankly, like, offer more than what I'm able to offer. Like, shout out to Tony Pesta. Like, if you get anything from this video, subscribe to Tony Pesta. I think he's the best person on YouTube that's talking about the Cavs on a consistent basis. I've been on his show a couple times. I've had him on here, but that's the guy. Go make sure you check him out because he does a great job of doing it. And he, similar to me, like, he breaks down his opinions. He shows you why. You might not agree with everything, but he tells you why he feels this way. He has reasons for why he feels this way. And he's also a good follow on Twitter. So make sure you check him out. But that's basically why I haven't been posting on this channel. Like, you know, between main channel stuff, between Q and Kobe stuff, there just hasn't been enough room for me to be able to cover the Cavs on a channel called Cavs Burner the way I want to do it. And I don't know what the future of this channel is. It's probably not going to be Cavs centric anymore. And I think most of the Cavs coverage is going to go to Q and Kobe, right? Like, I think that's where I'm going to cover a lot more basketball is on Q and Kobe. So that's where all that's going to go. So if you're a fan of Q and Kobe, you like that, that's cool. If you will be following, if you won't be making that change, I understand. And I'll try to, like, maybe on the Patreon, drop a couple Cavs centric videos. Like, I'm still going to watch and follow I'm a Cavs fan, right? But it's just the intensity in which I have to watch and the amount that I have to watch in order to cover them, right, on a channel, it's too much for me. It's too much on my plate, and I want to make sure that I'm not just putting out anything, right? That I'm putting out work that I can be proud of. So I want to be able to take my time on this stuff, and maybe this channel becomes a place where I just kind of post stuff, and there will be some in detailed Cavs videos. But anyway, that's why I haven't uploaded on this channel. But let's talk about the Cavs, because I do think that this is something that I think it's a fascinating conversation to have about the team and where they're at. Because on one hand, I understand why people get so furious with this Cavs team, because there's something about them that offends the sensibility sensibilities of people. And it's not in the way that it usually happens. Like sometimes you get a team that is tacky, right? Like they act like Memphis last year was a very tacky team. Like nobody really liked how they kicked it. They talked all this trash that wasn't earned. Like you didn't like rooting for them because you really just didn't mess with how they kicked it. This Cavs team doesn't have that problem. They're actually like the polar opposite. They're a very respectful bunch. They're very well-meaning. Like I think that these are good people, really good people that play for the Cavs. But they don't have, or at least they don't appear to have at times, a competitive edge that we can latch on to. One of my favorite podcasters is Bomani Jones, and he talks about this with Anthony Edwards and, you know, guys like Kobe Bryant, like guys who are people's favorite players, not necessarily the best player, but your favorite player. They are players who like you feel their passion, their intensity. You feel it when you watch them, right? You know, that's why you love those players. It's not because Kobe was the best player of all time, even though some people do think that. It's because you felt that shit when Kobe did it, right? Like you felt the intensity. You felt when Kobe started slapping the floor and doing, like you felt it. It was real there. Like one of my favorite Cavs, he's not anywhere near close to one of the best Cavaliers of all time. He's not even technically a good Cavalier. But like Dion Waiters was like one of my favorite Cavs for a little while because, hey man, when Dion was going, Dion was there. He would talk shit. He would push back. You know, you felt it with Dion Waiters, right? Like he had a real passion for the game. And I think what's missing with this Cavs team is that there's nobody on it that makes you feel it. If that makes sense, right? Like all the other Cavs teams had somebody that that made you feel it. Even if it wasn't Bron, it was somebody else on that Cavs team that you felt it. Like you felt their passion for the game. Matthew Dellavedova early in that LeBron run, right? I think Bron really carried the torch for a lot of that emotion later on in that run. But even guys like Kyrie Irving, like, you know, these are guys who kind of wear it on their sleeve in a way that's different than the Cavs. Like, yeah, the Cavs celebrate after something, but it's not, you don't feel it in their play. Like when they're down 10, you don't feel the Cavs like fight back in that same way that you would feel Kyrie Irving like fight back. Like it's a real intangible thing, but it's a real thing that we don't feel from this team all the time. Sometimes it's there, but it's not all the time. And I think that does bug people, and that gets people to call them soft or say that they're not physical enough. And look, some of that stuff is true. Some of that stuff is just that this team is undersized, right? But that is something that does frustrate fans. On the other hand, this Cavs team, and I have to remind myself about it too, because like, I like to be better than this, but sometimes this Cavs team does piss me off. But it's important to remember that this team is not a team that is super experienced. Like this is a super young team. And while I was frustrated watching them not be able to recognize that they had a chance to take over the series in Game 4 and then completely missed every opportunity they had to do that, I can recognize that because I watched LeBron James play for the Cavs and realize that, right? This is not that team. This is not that coaching staff. This is just not the same thing. This is a young team that has to figure that out for themselves. And as much as we could tell them, right, words only have so much power when it comes to stuff like this. Like, how many times has somebody tried to pull you aside, some old head tried to pull you aside and give you game, and you wasn't trying to hear it? And then like 5 years later, you understood what that dude was saying, but because you learned it the hard way, right? Like, that's just how it is. Words can only go so far. So yeah, we know what it looks like. We know what it should be. We've seen Bron do it. We've seen Bron go through these steps, but that doesn't mean that they're going to automatically know. And this is a team that, look, Game 5 was an important step for them because this was the first time that this Cavs team, most of those players on the team, by the way, except for Donovan Mitchell, who we'll talk about because I think he's another fascinating conversation, but most of that team had never known what it feels like to take control of a series. They'd never been at that point. They got nowhere close to that against New York. And this is the first time they had a true opportunity to take control of a series. Now they have to figure out how to close it, but this is the first time they did it. And we can complain about how they got there, but they got there. Evan Mobley, we've been complaining about the fact that he don't dunk enough. What was Evan Mobley doing at the end of this game? Look, he ain't the biggest dude, but he physical, right? He got in there, got physical, got the block at the end of the game, slammed that shit down in fourth quarter. He's learning. He's figuring it out. That's growth, right? I know people argue about whether he's regressed or not. I don't think he has, but that's the growth that you want to see from Evan Mobley. Like, okay, he understood. It's the fourth quarter. It's Game 5. This is our chance to take over. I'm not about to leave this up to chance and float it. I'm about to cram this thing as hard as I can. I'm about to play the best. Like, Evan Mobley showed me in the fourth quarter of that game and in the fourth quarter of many games this season. Okay, he's going to be one of the ones. Like, when it comes to that, that's what separates him. He shows up in those moments. That he's not intimidated by those moments. I think Darius Garland deserves some respect because, look, he's been having a season from hell. But you know what? Back against the wall, Game 5, Donovan Mitchell mentioned all kind of shots at the beginning of this game. Darius Garland on fire. And this ain't the first time that we've seen this from Darius Garland. We saw this in Game 2 from Darius Garland last year against the Knicks. Honestly, Darius Garland was the only one that tried to fight back versus the Knicks in an elimination game. So, you know, with those two, okay, they might have not known what it was, but they figured it out and they made the adjustments. And you know what? There's signs of them being able to figure that out and learn from that. Like Evan Mobley's not even at the end of his rookie deal. Darius Garland is just at the start of his first rookie deal contract. These dudes are super young. You know, sometimes I got to remind myself, as much as that stuff bugs me, that they don't know when to close and that they aren't the most physical team in the world. And it seems like they let dudes like Mo Wagner get way too much gas on them than I feel like anybody would tolerate in the NBA. They got to learn this shit, right? And it's like watching, it's like having, I'm not old enough to have a nephew that's like old. So maybe some of the older unks can contribute to this conversation. But to me, it's like what I would imagine having a problematic nephew is like. Like, you try to give them advice, you try to give them game, and they keep doing the same shit, and they're not learning, and you just get frustrated, right? But you got to remember, dude's young, and he not listening like that when you super young, and that's kind of what it is watching this Cavs team. So I'm always at that kind of exchange, and I feel like that's where the city is with it, right? Like, outside of the people who are just going to be degenerates and cuss people out because the Cavs didn't win they parlay or whatever it is. Like, I'm not talking about those folks. I'm talking about actual people who care about the team, who get mad, because I do think that like those people are mad and they're mad for a reason. And I don't think that reason is something that's insane. I think that's a thing that people get mad about. But I also think that a bit of patience is required when you're rooting for a team that's this young. And I think we're kind of putting them in a place that's far ahead of where they should be. So that's the whole conversation about the Cavs. I do think they hit a milestone. I get why people get frustrated with them because we just want them. We want to know that they want it, right? I think that's basically what Cavs fans are on. We want to know that they want it. And it's not obvious all the time that they do because they're such a reserved bunch that we don't feel it. And the same thing used to happen before this last season from Kevin Stefanski. And you notice Kevin Stefanski, the Browns head coach, really made an effort this last season to let you know he cares, right? Like that was basically what Kevin was doing all season. I'm going to celebrate on camera. I'm going to high five the guys. I'm going to let you know I care, because that matters to sports fans. Like, we can call it ridiculous. It is what it is, but sports fandom is not the most logical thing in the world. That matters. We want to know that you care. Like, if you look at who your favorite players are, they're usually people who let you know that they care, outside of Nick Chubb. But Nick Chubb not caring is his kind of way of showing you. It's a weird thing with Nick Chubb, but it's not about the Browns. We want to know, especially in basketball, that you care, right? And it does bug people when they don't really feel that all the time. Let's talk about Donovan Mitchell. Because on one hand, yes, Donovan Mitchell is playing through an injury. And I don't think Donovan Mitchell was bad in the fourth quarter. He hit a lot of big shots, and the Cavs do not win that game without Donovan Mitchell. There is a lot of nuance with the Donovan Mitchell conversation that needs to be had on both sides of the argument. When we're relitigating the trade, when we're asking ourselves, is Donovan Mitchell worth it? Is Donovan Mitchell worth the trade? Is Donovan Mitchell worth bringing back on a big deal? The truth about Donovan Mitchell is, at this point, he is a tremendous regular season player. You are 10 games better than what you should be because Donovan Mitchell is on the team. If Donovan Mitchell isn't on the team, this is a play-in team at best. Even with Lauri Markkanen, this is a play-in. Like, if you never made the Donovan Mitchell team, the Donovan Mitchell trade, you are not a 4 seed after slumping and having a bunch of injuries. You are a play-in team at best. If you never traded for Donovan Mitchell, you don't even get the chance to lose to the Knicks in the first round last year. You probably make the play-in and lose to the Heat or some shit like that. I don't know. But I don't remember the seeding from last year, but you probably lose to the Celtics in the first round. And you don't even have the hope of thinking you're advanced. So we have a lot of expectations because we have Donovan Mitchell, right? The reason people are frustrated with the team is because they got better because they got Donovan Mitchell, because they have Evan Mobley as well, right? Evan Mobley changed the floor of this team to the point to where you wanted to trade for Donovan Mitchell. So you see what you got. But also, because the floor has been raised by Donovan Mitchell, because your expectations are raised because of Donovan Mitchell, it makes it more obvious when Donovan Mitchell's shortcomings affect your ability to be the team that you want to be. And it's a difficult place to be in. How do you appreciate where somebody can take you, but also be frustrated on where they can't get you? It is the Kirk Cousins problem to me in basketball, right? Where Kirk Cousins is a quarterback who's pretty good, right? Like, he's better than most starting quarterbacks. The problem with Kirk Cousins is that you're lucky to get out the first round with him as your quarterback because he has obvious shortcomings at the position. He's better than most, but he's not good enough to get you past where you want to get to by having a player as expensive as Kirk Cousins. And with Donovan Mitchell, I'm wondering if that's the same thing, because we just have not seen this guy have a standout playoff series in over 3 years. I think it's been since the bubble. The bubble was the last time he stood out in a playoff series. But his last year in Utah, last year against the Knicks, and even this series so far versus Orlando, he hasn't been awful. But you can't tell me when you've watched Donovan Mitchell in this series that you feel like you're watching somebody who is a fringe MVP candidate. Right? Like, when Paolo's making shots and I'm just crossing my fingers hoping that Donovan answers, it's not a good place to be in, because Paolo's a good player, but damn, he ain't there yet. Like, Donovan should be able to go toe for toe with him, and it just didn't feel like that's what was going to happen And it's been like that for 3 years with Donovan in the postseason. And I think it is fair to ask these questions. I understand he's hurt, but he's out there. And the same way, he's not going to accept what he did from the floor, shooting percentage wise, in game 5. Like, there's no way he finds that acceptable. It's the same way we can't let that be acceptable because he's hurt. He decided to go out there, and look, I'm like this with injuries with all players. People got mad at me when I did this with other athletes. If you're injured and you choose to play, you're going to be held up to the same standard that you're always held up to, because guys are playing through injuries all the time in sports. So I'm not about to cut you some slack because you went out there and played with the injury. If you say you can play, that means that you're saying that you can play 4 minutes and live up to expectations. It's tough. You're hurt. I get it. But that's the choice that you made. If you did not want to be judged based on your injury, you should have sat out. But you made the decision that you could be a benefit to the team by playing injured, which means that you have to be judged based on what you've done previously. So that is what it is. I think there's a serious question to ask here about, should the Cavs, like, I know we talked about, does Donovan Mitchell want to come back to Cleveland? The real conversation to me is, should Cleveland bring back Donovan Mitchell? Not because Donovan Mitchell's not a good player. I think Donovan Mitchell's obviously a good player. But because Donovan Mitchell is showing signs, and look, he's getting, what is he, 27 now, 28? So in a few years, you're going to be asking yourself, like, hey, is he starting to age as well? Like, there's a real question on, like, hey, is Donovan Mitchell going to be, is Donovan Mitchell worth being the guy that locks you up salary cap wise? Like, yes, you're going to be a better team with Donovan Mitchell. You're going to make the playoffs because you have Donovan Mitchell. But if you can only get so far with Donovan Mitchell as your best scorer, is he worth paying like somebody who you think can get you further? And I'm not saying that, oh, you should sign somebody else to be the top scorer. Like, not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying, would it just be worthwhile to be a little worse for a little bit of time? Let Evan Mobley develop his offensive game, because he's going to get more shots on that end. He's going to get more touches. He's going to develop his passing, his dribbling. Like, let Evan Mobley get the ball more often because you don't have 2 ball dominant guards behind him. Let him grow offensively. Maybe the win-loss record isn't great. Maybe you're a play-in team. Hell, maybe you're in the lottery. But if you're in the lottery, and I believe the Cavs trades with Utah, most of them are lottery protected or pick swaps, and the Cavs aren't going to be a worse team than Utah anytime soon. So you'll be fine. Maybe it's worth it to get back into the lottery for a couple of years and let Evan Mobley develop for a couple of years versus paying a ton of money, locking yourself in cap-wise to a guy who can only get you but so far. Like, is it worth paying for a ceiling that we feel like we know is maybe the second round of the NBA playoffs, maybe the Eastern Conference Finals? But it feels like the second round is about the best we can expect from having Donovan Mitchell be the best scorer on the team. Or maybe is it worthwhile to see, hey, let's see what we got in Evan Mobley. Let's see if he could develop offensively if we give him more touches and give him more room to grow and let him pass the ball more and let the offense go through him more. You know, what can DG be if Evan Mobley becomes more of a factor on offense? Like, is that more worthwhile? And then maybe somebody comes up in free agency that with your extra space, you can trade for and bring in and sign on a long-term deal. Or maybe somebody pops up in the lottery like a long wing that can score, that ends up completing the puzzle. Because with Donovan Mitchell, you always have an awkward fit in the backcourt with Darius Garland or whoever you pair back there, because Donovan's not a big guard, nor is whoever you're going to have a point guard for the time being. We know this roster needs adjustment. I don't think it's where everybody thinks it needs adjustment, right? Everybody points to Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, and that two big lineup can't work. It's the one thing on this Cavs team that's consistently worked, so I don't buy that one at all. But I do think the Cavs need a wing that they could depend on. They got no wings they can depend on. And how do you get a wing? Is Donovan Mitchell being on the roster going to help you get a wing? Is Donovan Mitchell going to take you so far, but kind of hold you back a little bit too at the same time? Would you be better off being a little bit worse for a couple of years, hoping that you hit in the draft or maybe a free agent comes along? Because there's part of me that wants the safety and security of knowing that Donovan Mitchell is going to be on this team and this Cavs team is going to be good. But only so good. But the other part of me wants to take that risk because the fans aren't really happy with this Cavs team. Like, and I would rather just have a chance of getting a team that everybody could be happy about, right? I would rather take the chance of trying to be great. And that's what the Cavs are at right now. You're good right now. But are you willing to risk being good to be great? Because you could be bad. If you could get rid of Donovan Mitchell. Evan Mobley does not develop in the way that you want to offensively, and Darius Garland continues to play the same level of basketball that he's played this year. And you're going to be a terrible team. So that's the conversation I want to have, right? I'm not coming at the place of Donovan Mitchell is not a good player. I think Donovan Mitchell is a really good player. But realistically, what's your ceiling with Donovan Mitchell? Is that worth locking yourself into? Like, are we just trying to win a trade at this point by hanging on to Donovan Mitchell? Like, are we just afraid of looking bad? Did we sink too much into this? I don't think you did. You have. And is it better to have Donovan Mitchell, or is it better to take a chance at possibly being better than you can be with Donovan? Because right now, I think a real ceiling is starting to approach with this team. It's a real conversation I think a lot of people have to have. And I haven't seen a lot of people have this conversation in a way that wasn't just like argumentative bullshit, right? Where someone's like, Donovan Mitchell's a bum, he needs to go. And that's like the tone of the conversation. And I'm not going to lie, I've been guilty of it before. Like, I get mad because he has like 14 points in a playoff game or some shit like that. But in a better tone, I think we need to have a better view of that conversation. Like, is he somebody that you really want to commit to as your best player? Or do you think trading Darius Garland, keeping Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley, and maybe looking to upgrade there, is that going to be something? I think that's split in the middle. I'm not a big fan of half-measure solutions. I think this Cavs roster right now is a result of half-measure solutions, and I think you're getting what half measures get you. Limited teams. I think if you're the Cavs, full measure. Full measure. It's not going to be a beloved take. It might not be a take that ages well on my end. But the more and more I watch, the more and more I think to myself, maybe the Cavs shouldn't bring back Donovan Mitchell. Maybe the Cavs should take the risk. Bet on Evan Mobley. Bet on Darius Garland. Bet on Jared Allen. And hope that that space can be utilized to build a better team around them than what they have right now. To build a team that fits. To get a coach in here that knows, that doesn't have to be strangled into putting the right people in. Get a GM in here that builds a team in a way that makes more sense than what Koby Altman has done. I think that's the swing I'd be willing to take because I think Evan Mobley is one hell of a player. I think Darius Garland's having a season from hell, but he'll bounce back. Jared Allen, he shut up all the critics. It's like he shut me up. I was talking big shit about Jared Allen after that Knicks series. Not even gonna lie. I ain't even upload that much since then. You can see. You could go back and see. Knick fans was retweeting my shit. So, like Jared Allen, all that. It's the other pieces. It's like trying to cobble together this roster and try to make it work by signing George Niang or Max Strus or trading for Karis LeVert that have really hamstrung the Cavs. And if I'm the Cavs, strip it down to the studs. And right now the question is Donovan Mitchell one of them studs? He's definitely the best player you have on the team currently. But will you be able to build a nicer foundation if you don't have him there? And I think the answer might be yes. And it's worth considering. And I'm leaning towards it. Fuck it. I'm leaning towards that direction. I think that's the direction the Cavs should take. We'll see what they do. But let me know in the comment section what you feel. Y'all have a great day. Have a better night. Peace.